Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another episode on your favorite football updates channel. It's the Football Tribe UG. To all our new subscribers, thank you and welcome to the community. I hope you enjoy your stay here. Now, today we'll be talking about Manchester United and Casemiro. Yesterday, the Red Devils did announce that they will be parting ways with the 33-year-old Brazilian international after 4 seasons. Remember, he signed for them in August 2022, when Erik ten Hag had just also joined the club as their new manager, and he put pen to paper on a 4-year contract with an option to extend it for a further year. They paid over £60 million for him to get him out of Real Madrid and put him on a 350,000 pound weekly contract. Now, whereas that is proved too expensive over the course of time, even last summer, they had hoped to move him on. However, he was insistent that he had no desires to leave Manchester United. Now, I, for one, do not think it is the right decision for Manchester United to part ways with Casemiro. And while you may have divergent opinions, or it may be a divisive opinion in itself, if you lend me your ears for the next couple of minutes, I will try to explain to you why I think that is the wrong decision for Manchester United to make. So, they had an option to extend his contract for a further year, which means he would have stayed for a 5th year, but they won't be exercising that. Why? Partly because they want to cut down on their wage bill. It's for the same reason that they've really tried hard to move on players like Marcus Rashford, players like Jadon Sancho, who is out on loan to Aston Villa. Why? Because they think, I do not think it was a horrible signing, but it's one that did not work out in the end for Manchester United and Jadon Sancho. So Casemiro is taken within the same breath. You remember Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been quoted on numerous occasions that they need to manage their finances better, they need to cut down on their wage bill, and Casemiro is one of the players why it is significantly higher. Now, I, for one, would be of the school of thought that perhaps Manchester United should have sat down with Casemiro and maybe negotiated a significant pay cut to have him stay at the club for an extra year. Perhaps those discussions did happen and they were not fruitful. I do not know for a fact that they did not happen or that they happened, but I'd want to assume that maybe they did not happen. Now, the reason as why I say that it is the wrong decision for Manchester United to part ways with Casemiro, look around the Manchester United squad. Who is their best holding midfielder? I think Casemiro is the best holding midfielder in that team. Yes, they did sign Manuel Ugarte, and this is his second campaign in Manchester United colours, but has it worked out? I do not think that I've watched a game of football in which Manuel Ugarte has convinced me that he is the next big thing in that Manchester United central midfield. You have Kobbie Mainoo, who is largely a number 8 and is not the pivot that you may require for a team of Manchester United stature. Can he play there? Sometimes. Season in, season out, it may be a little too much to handle for Kobbie Mainoo. He is still a young player who can morph into anything that you may coach him to be, but you may think, I have a feeling he has some bit of lacking qualities to that effect. So that means Casemiro is the best holding midfielder. Now, in the wake of those facts, I know that Manchester United, dating far back last summer, they were interested in bringing in a central midfielder. Of course, they made attempts to try and sign Carlos Baliba from Brighton and Hove Albion, the 21-year-old Cameroon international, although that deal did not go through because Brighton told them he was not for sale. Now, of course, at the time, they wanted to sign him. He was valued at around £100 million in the benchmark of what Moises Caicedo cost Chelsea, because it cost Chelsea £115 million. As we speak today, I do not think Carlos Baliba has had a season as good as he had the previous campaign. So his price tag may have dropped to around £80 million or perhaps even lesser. Does that work to United's advantage? Well, he's not the only player that they are targeting for that midfield role. They've spoken about players like Adam Wharton at Crystal Palace, young, English player. They've pointed fingers in the direction of Elliot Anderson at Nottingham Forest. He's there, I think, for his second season, having joined from Newcastle. They've talked about Lucien Aguema, the 23-year-old at Sevilla, central midfielder, and then they have interest in Ruben Neves. Now, in that cohort of players that Manchester United are targeting, Elliot Anderson is another player in the mold of Kobbie Mainoo. He's more of an 8 than he is a 6. Same applies for Ruben Neves, a box-to-box kind of player, experienced player, 28 years of age, has Premier League experience, having played formerly at Wolverhampton Wanderers before making the move to Al Hilal in the Saudi Pro League, where he has less than 6 months left to his current contract, and reports do suggest that he could be destined for a return to Europe. Whether Manchester United, and for me, Man United signing a player like Ruben Neves should be a no-brainer if we can agree to terms. However, in addition to that, because he's ordinarily a number 8, you'd still need a number 6. So, why do I think Manchester United should retain Casemiro, or should have retained Casemiro? For the reasons I've already given. One, you have a 5-time UEFA Champions League winner. There's not a single player that you're going to find with that kind of experience. And for any player that Manchester United sign for that particular role, I do not think that this is a player that is better than Casemiro that they are going to sign. Any of the players are sort of prospects or are very promising talents. In other words, they could learn a thing or two off of Casemiro. That's why I'm of the school of thought that Manchester United should have held on to Casemiro for another season, not as their main starter in that role, but as a squad player. I've given the example of Jorginho. When Arsenal signed Jorginho from Chelsea, it's not because he was going to be their prime holding midfielder. It's not because he was going to be their starter. He was out of his prime. But they knew that he had the experience that they, for a player that needed in their squad. One, for other players to learn off of him, but also to be called upon into action with the experience without having a significant drop in quality whenever they needed him. So, whether you go and get a Carlos Baleba, whether you get an Adam Wharton, I still believe any of those players can learn a thing or two from Casemiro. So you lose that leverage. Then, next season, Manchester United are going to be in more competitions than they are possibly in this season. As we speak, Man United are only competing in the Premier League because they were knocked out of the EFL Cup at the first time of asking at the hands of Grimsby Town, and so did they. And so, in the FA Cup at the first time of asking against Brighton and Hove Albion. So, with that European football, they were left with only the Premier League to play for. In their targets this season is to finish within the top 4 or possibly top 5 and qualify for Europe. And a 5th place finish this season could possibly be a UEFA Champions League place for the Premier League teams. But as we speak, Man United are only a point behind Liverpool, who are occupying 4th place. That means 4th place in itself is well within reach for Manchester United. So assuming Michael Carrick does well and he guides them to that top 4 finish and they qualify for UEFA Champions League football, that would mean two things. That one, they have the promise of finances to invest in their squad. That means more revenue, up to the tune of £100 million. When you look at broadcasting revenue, matchday revenue, and everything that comes with sponsorship deals for a team that is in the UEFA Champions League, that gives them room to spend. Then there's also the elephant in the room. Who is going to be Manchester United's next manager? While they have told the rest of the world that Michael Carrick is only there as an interim, we do not know whether, if he does perform the wonders, the likes of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that he did when he took over after the sacking of Jose Mourinho back in 2018, and he ended up being handed a full-time managerial contract with Manchester United, will be the same fate for Michael Carrick. We do not know that for certainty, and we can not say that it can never happen until results say otherwise. So, but let's go with the possibility that that is not going to be the case, because largely it may not be the possibility. So they are looking at managers like the likes of Luis Enrique, and that is more wishful than perhaps in what is in the conversation for Manchester United. Gary Southgate, Mauricio Pochettino, Carlo Ancelotti, his name has been floated around. Xabi Alonso was part ways with Real Madrid. Enzo Maresca has been discussed. Kian McKennie at Ipswich Town has been discussed, and any other name whatsoever. Now, for any manager or any head coach that they may look to deploy in the summer, that means for all this transfer business that they may need to do in the summer, may have to wait for that appointment. Why? Because the last thing you want to do is bring in a head coach who then, after 1 year or 6 months in charge, says this is not the right profile of players that I need to make this project work. Already, any new head coach that will have to walk into Manchester United is going to have to assess that squad and pick up the broom and sweep some old wood out. Now, we do not know who those players are going to be. the new head coach could say, yeah, Manuel Ugarte is not the player for me. So that means another exit. In any case, you never know. Due to transfer business, another club could come in and say, let's take Manuel Ugarte off of your hands. So, and then you have you have your back line, which is not fully sorted. So depending on what the new head coach says or desires, the goalkeeping situation, they could say, I do not want Altai Baindia. I do not want a Tom Heaton. I need a set of goalkeepers. When it comes to your overall midfield, the speculation that Bruno Fernandes could still leave for the Saudi Pro League or any other interest, because Man United were some figures within the Manchester United ranks wanted to take that £100 million from Al Hilal. Only that they left the decision to the player. The player said just as much in his podcast appearance with Rio Ferdinand earlier on this season. So when it comes to that midfield, there's a lot to sort out for Manchester United, centrally and going forward in the attacking midfield sense. So for me, keeping a player like Casemiro, with all his experience as a squad player, the way Arsenal had Jorginho, would have been a very good thing for Man United. Unfortunately, they have decided otherwise. So I think it's the wrong decision. But only time will prove us right or wrong. Because, again, for Man United to get a top talent for a central midfielder, it's going to cost them a significant fee. Let's say they spend anywhere between 60 to 80 million pounds on a central midfielder. Are they just going to bring in one, or they will be looking forward to bringing in two? Because, like I've said, while you have Manuel Ugarte within that squad, the last thing you want to have is a significant drop in quality when you lose one to injury. That's your primary player. So let's say you get a Carlos Baliba or an Adam Wharton. There's no guarantees that he won't get injured. Players get injured all the time. God forbid he comes in and maybe you lose him for 2-3 months through injury. What then are the alternatives? You have a significant drop off in form or in terms of quality. So that means United could be looking to bring in at least two players for that particular role in the absence of Casemiro. Like I said, last summer they already wanted to bring in somebody, even though Casemiro was still at the club. So they failed at that. Now, like I said, you could venture in the transfer window and bring a Ruben Neves. He's largely a number 8, but can play as a 6. Same thing with Elliot Anderson. He's largely an 8, can play as a 6, but better off as an 8. So that means United will need to bring in 2-3 central midfielders. When I mean central midfielders, I mean a number 6, a number 8, and in addition to that, an attacking midfielder or a creative midfielder. I have suggested time and again that Man United need a player in the mold of a Yuri Tillemans. So the question will be, where will Manchester United be putting their resources? It's a no-brainer that they need a central midfielder. The question is, how many will they get? Do they have the possibility of spending £120 million to bring in two central midfielders? Maybe one that costs them around £75-80 million and another that costs them another £40 million for backup player? Because like I've said, contrary to what they have this season, next season, Man United will have more responsibilities. They could qualify for Europe. And if they do qualify for Europe, that means more games to be played, whether it's the UEFA Conference League, whether it's the UEFA Europa League or the UEFA Champions League, whatever the case is. Then you'll have the EFL Cup, you have the Premier League, and later on the FA Cup. Now, I do not think Manchester United next season may be as poor as they had been from the start of this season. The league, their position in the league table doesn't say anything to suggest they've been poor this season. However, we all know that in the grand scheme of things, that Man United would largely want to be better than they have been over the last couple of months. Take the example of Arsenal. Look at how long it's taken Mikel Arteta to assemble what is preferred, what is deemed to be the ideal squad. It's taken him five whole years to assemble that squad, possibly 6 years to assemble that squad. So if Man United have the objective of winning the Premier League title in the season 2027-2028, as is the objective of Omar Barida, then building a squad may take them a bit of time. It will take significant investment. It will take acting quick. So that means sometimes, and remember, when you sign players, sometimes there are hits and misses. We've seen it time and again. Look at Arsenal with Fabio Vieira. Look at them with Nuno Tavares. And all the other misses they've had in terms of their squad building. You remember Matteo Guendouzi, who left for Olympique Marseille, then went to Lazio and is now with Fenerbahce. So even whoever Man United signed, there's no guarantee that he's going to work out. I've just given you the example of Manuel Ugarte. He's into his second season and he's yet to convince any head coach that from Eric Ten Hag, who signed him, to Ruben Amorim, who had managed him at Sporting CP before he made the move to PSG, where Man United signed him from. Look at that. He's yet to convince. Maybe their next signing takes, a season to gel in. So, do you again have a drop in competitiveness just because of that? So I think United are not doing themselves sufficient justice to let go of Casemiro. It would have been a costly decision in some way for them to keep him, but I think they could have used him for an extra year. What are your thoughts and opinions on that? Robert Kesakos is my name. Leave the comments, your views and opinions in the comment section, and we will review them at the right juncture. Otherwise, stay blessed for now. Bye-bye.